Uh, Thank y'all for coming. First, I just want to thank Mr. Page from the city councilman, one of the city councilmen of ADL for letting me have this building. I want to thank y'all for coming because I need y'all to do this. I want to thank my speakers, Rob, Cornelius, and Jerome, for coming out and helping me out doing this. The reason why I'm doing food for thought, the reason is to have a positive vibe, to help motivate, to help the kids understand, what we're trying to do and what's right and what's wrong. And it's a lot of things going on, and I'm trying to have like positive people that y'all can look up to as role models, to help, someone that you can see and be like, okay, I can look up and be like this guy, not necessarily me or none of these guys that's going to speak up, but just trying to get that different feel. In the future, if we keep doing it, I'm gonna have different people. I'm gonna have women up here, and I'm gonna have certain people that that's going in a positive direction with their life. With that being said, I just start with what I gotta say. My name is Kelvin Martin. I'm born in Germany, but I lived most of my life in Ada, Georgia. Growing up, I had a pretty decent life. I'm saying, of course, I'm gonna have my hard time, my good times, and me and my family, we had our times. It's been rough, but we got through it. My dad, at one point in time, he worked 3 jobs. My mom worked a job before. My brothers worked, and I'm the only one that didn't really work. So, but it just goes to show you how dedicated and my parents was and my brothers was into making my dreams possible. And and just something that worked out for me. Just to talk about a little what I went through, as far as growing up. When I was in going to middle school, everybody knew I wanted to play basketball. I always wanted to play basketball. It was something I always wanted to do. And in middle school, my mom can tell you right now that I was pretty bad. Just looking at me now, you wouldn't think that I got rolled up. You wouldn't think that I was in ISS with detention and that, but I was pretty bad. And in particular, like 7th grade, I was on the basketball team, and I had my basketball coach was like, you got 3 strikes. If you get rolled up, you got in trouble 3 times, you get kicked off the team. And I was like, okay, I was pretty bad, but I really wanted to play basketball. So, with that being said, so I was like in class as a basketball player. I don't do it now, but as a basketball player, being young, and if I had like jeans or pants or whatever, I always keep basketball shorts just in case, someone wanted to get ready to hoop, and I was always ready. So, I had to be ready. So, but and one day, I was in the back of a class, and my teacher, and sometimes the basketball shorts get caught up in your underwear, you got to kind of fix them. And so, I was in the back of class, and I was like, man, I need to fix it. So I stood up in the back of class, and it kind of looked like I was sagging. And when I was younger, it's one of the things I did all the time. It was a popular thing to sag. And I have gotten in trouble for it before. So I'm in the back of class, and I unbuckled my pants, and I'm trying to fix my basketball shorts. And my teacher was like, "Oh, Kelvin, you're sagging." I'm like, "No, I'm not. I'm not sagging. I'm not sagging." He was like, "No, you're sagging." I'm like, "Come on, man, I'm not sagging." And I was like, I'm trying to beg him, like, "Yo, if you write me up, I'm gonna get kicked off the basketball team." And he was like, he just didn't care, due to how I was acting, my behavior in his classroom, and due to my past behavior, as I'm saying, he wasn't gonna give me a chance. Now, maybe if I was good in his class, and maybe if I listened to him more times, did my schoolwork, whatever, maybe he would have gave me a pass. Maybe like, okay, you're not sagging. But just due to my bad behavior and being rolled up, he didn't listen to me. So he wrote me up, and I tried to go talk to my coach, and yo, Coach Williams, I wasn't sagging, tried to explain my story. And, he just listened to it. He kicked me off the basketball team, and I was like, after that, when I got kicked off the basketball team, I was hurt. And I told myself I would never get rolled up again like that. Of course, it happens. I got rolled up once or twice, but never as much as I got in trouble before. So, that was one of the things that went in the positive direction for my life. Also, going to 8th grade, I made a basketball team again, and it was good. It was like 8-1 in the basketball team or whatever. And So after like one of our big games we had, it was like a girl that said, yeah, I want to interview Thad and David, Thad Williams and David Arnold. It was like, yeah, I want to interview them. And I'm like, why not me? I'm like considered one of the good players too. And he was like, nah, like I just want to interview them too. So I'm like, why? Like, why not me? Why I can't be that guy? So I was mad. I was jealous. I was like, I said, Thad already had football and track, and David already had football and baseball. And I was like, why they gotta have basketball too? So it was one of those type of things, like, after they did the interview, like middle school, the year was over. And after that day, I was like, man, listen, like Cook County basketball will be Kelvin Martin's, and that's how it's gonna be. I was just so motivated. And with that desire, that's when it came to me being at the park at 5 in the morning and waking up at 7 in the morning to run. And, you can ask my parents, they know I worked my butt off growing up. It wasn't they had to tell me something because, I was always gonna put my work. And no one didn't have to tell me to get in the gym. No one didn't have to tell me I need to work out. No one didn't have to tell me I needed to study because I knew what I wanted to do. I wanted to play college basketball, so I knew I had to do my own work. So that was one of the biggest things that really changed from my 8th grade year to 9th grade, because if that didn't happen to me, then I probably won't be this person I am today. Because when I got that summer of my 8th grade going to my 9th grade year, I worked so hard that, I earned a starting position on varsity. I was a freshman starting on varsity, and ain't too many that gonna be doing that. I was still skinny and I looked funny looking out on the court, but, I got the job done. And, high school was a big transition for me, and I learned a lot, and I experienced a lot, but a couple of things that happened to me that's very important that happened to in my life was the fact that when I was in 10th grade, I had Miss Green, Judy Green, and we was in class, and we was finna go to class, meet Thad and like Kenny. We was finna go in class, and like she had we was joking around, and she had stopped. She was like, Kelvin, I need to see you after class. And I'm like, anytime a teacher needs to talk to you, it was like before class. She's like, I need to see you before class. Anytime a teacher needs to talk to you, you think you're in trouble. So I'm like, what I did wrong. And she stopped me. She said, why are you trying to be like everybody? I was like, what you mean? Like, you trying to be like it? Why you always following everybody? Why you won't be yourself? Why you always got to follow everybody? I'm like, she's like, why you don't try, she said, try this. Be yourself. Don't try to follow everybody and try to fit in so you can seem like you're cool. And I was like, dang. I went into class and I thought about it. And I'm like, maybe she's right. Maybe I should be myself. Maybe I should not try to follow everybody and act like them, because what they're doing may seem like it's cool. So I'm like, dang. So with that being said, it was one of those type of things that, going into basketball, I had a great year, and then I ran track. And my track coach that same year, he was like, I was doing track, I was doing high jump. If anybody watched me play, I could dunk the basketball. So, it was one of those type of things, I could jump or whatever. He was like, yeah, you do come to run track, you do high jump, okay. I was like, all right, cool, that's cool, whatever. My friends do it, so I do it, we have fun, I be around them. So, it's one practice, I'm at track practice, and I'm jumping or whatever. I can't really do it, because I don't know the technique. And he got mad at me. He was like, yo, Kelvin, you're not doing it right. And I'm like, yo, coach, I'm doing as best as I can. I said, you can't expect me to do what I do on the basketball court on this track, on high jump. And he was like, well, what you do on the basketball court ain't like all that good either. I'm like, what? I'm saying, you're a coach. Like, why are you being negative towards me? Like, your job is to encourage me and to push me and make me better, and you're being negative. Now, that was the first time in my life I ever quit a sport. And the reason is 2 reasons. One, he pissed me off. And 2, I had to show him that I was that good in basketball. So with that being said, I decided to not play football, to not run track, no other sport but basketball. So all my life was dedicated to basketball. And it went to going back to when I say I'm being myself, that's what it was. Like, I received a lot of hate. And I'm not saying like hate as people hating on me because I was doing good. It was that too, but I received a lot of hate. Like, I received a lot of criticism. Like, people said I was cocky. People said I was arrogant. People say I was selfish because I wasn't doing everything else the kids was doing. You know, I didn't have J's all the time. I'm saying I bought my first pair of J's when I was in a sophomore in college. You know, that's when I first received my pair of J's. I wasn't driving. I didn't start driving until I was in college. You know, but my mind was so caught up in basketball. That's all I cared about because I wanted to prove so many people wrong. You know, going into my senior year, I mean, you know, that same coach, you know, he came to my basketball games and looked at me. You know, I looked at him too. I ain't really say nothing to him, but I knew when I told him, you know, I had 15 full scholarship D1 schools that wanted me to play basketball. What could he say? And that's all the hard work I put in. Now, back to that, we could talk about, you know, I could talk about how my behavior was, and I could talk about basketball, but education was one thing that my parents did key on. You know, I might have acted bad, I might have played basketball, but my education was key, and they made sure I did my homework, they made sure I did my work, you know. And, you know, in high school, a lot of people didn't know, you know, when I graduated with honors, which means I had A's and B's for most of my school. Like, so when I had graduated, I had like a little rope that I had honors, and like everybody used to look at me like, bro, you an honor graduate? I said, yeah, bro, I do my work. You know, because I didn't carry no books. I carried a book bag. Anybody knew me when I was young, I carried a book bag with nothing in it, maybe a pencil and a pen. And everybody didn't think I did my work, but I did my work. I studied, you know. And I'm just telling you, you know, you're going to have to do your work because I knew I wasn't that type of guy. Because to go to college, I had to take the SAT or ACT. And I wasn't that type of guy to take a big test like that and make a great score, a high score on it. That's not me. So I knew that if I got my grades high enough, A's and B's, I didn't have to make high enough on that test, which I didn't. I made a decent score to get in school, and that's what happened. You know, and I ended up signing to go into college, Charleston University, and I hated school. I hated college bad, man. I hated it. My first year, I wanted to transfer. My first year, before basketball season even started, I almost got kicked off. Heck, my parents wouldn't even know that. I almost got kicked off. You know, it was a situation where the girl had alcohol poisoning, and she only remembered 3 names. And one of those 3 names was mine. And I went to a Christian school, and they was trying to kick me out. They were trying to find out what happened. And, you know, luckily God looked over me. You know, he made that go by. But it was just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, how fast everything could have changed for me. I probably wouldn't be playing basketball. If I got kicked off, my mom and dad knew that. They'd probably been mad. I've been suspended for a whole year. Everything would have changed for me. Just by one decision. So you know you have to be careful about where you choose to go in certain places. If you don't feel too comfortable with that place that they're going to, then don't go. Because one bad decision can change your whole life. And you know, with that being said, that same year, something else my mom and dad don't know. That same year, I got a gun pulled out on me. I'm walking in campus, got a gun pulled out on me. Dude pointing at me because he thought one of my teammates took his money. I'm not your roommate. I don't even live in the same room as you. But you think I pulled his money? He pulls a gun out of me and shows it to me. Like, you took my money? I'm like, nah, man, take your money, man. Like, come on, dude. You know, you think about how scary that can be. I'm 19 years old. I ain't never experienced this. I'm saying we do live in Adel, but you know, ain't nobody running up to you with no gun that you don't know, that you never seen in your life. It's different. You know, I realized I was like, dang. You know, luckily you ended up going to jail, but that's the things that happen to you outside of Adel. You know, everybody is confined in here. And, you know, that's one of those type of things, you know, and then a lot of things everybody see that, you know, I'm doing good, but in college it was rough for me, man. My dad got shot 4 times in Fort Hood, Texas. You know, my mom was a little sick. My brothers was going through some things. And yeah, man, I'm a sophomore going through this. Like, I gotta go play a game, and I just found out, like, my dad got shot 4 times. I gotta go see him 2 days before I go play. Yeah, I got to meet President Obama, but that's one time I meet President Obama, you know what I mean? Hey, is my dad gone, and just me, my mom, my brother. You know, but once again, God seen the way through. You know, so One thing, you know, I'm not gonna get too big on it, on this topic, but you know, one thing I do feel that, you know, God has been looking over me. I have my life, you know. I do serve God, and I'm a believer in Him, and I do keep Him first in my life because I know what He done for me. He has been there for me through all the times I've been through, hard times anyway. So yeah, man. With all that being said, the main thing I'm trying to get is to tell you is that, man, like, this life thing ain't gonna be easy. It's gonna be hard. I'm saying right now you're young and you're living life, and I understand that you want to have fun. And that's cool, you know. That's what you're supposed to do. But once you get older, man, the older you get, things gonna change, and you just need to make sure you make the right decisions. Like if you want to play sports, then do it, you know. But at the same time, listen to your parents, listen to your teachers. You know, make sure you're doing good. Make sure you're behaving well. Because you can go out and be somewhere else and be somebody else. But that's not you. Because you know your mom and dad ain't raised you like that. So why would you do it? Now you're changing. You're being a hypocrite. You know how your mama raised you, so why would you go out here and do something stupid? When your mama didn't raise you or your dad didn't raise you like that. No matter who, your guardian or your grandparents, don't matter. If you with your grandparents, then you need to listen. Because your mama and them didn't trust you to go to them. They said you look at them, and they trust that their grandparents are going to teach you, and you know they're going to teach you. So you have to understand that, because man, life is short, man. You just never know. You only have one chance at it. So man, I'm blessed to be in this position now, because you know, if I made one wrong decision, the Kelvin Martin that you see today, you won't see that Kelvin Martin. You might see someone else. Who knows? In closing, you know, I just want to say, you know, I'm glad. Thank you for coming. You know, thank you again, Mr. Page. Thank you, Coach Charles, for making this possible. You know, that's my guy. Coach Charles makes everything possible for me. Thank y'all for coming. You know, thank my speakers for coming. You know, and the main thing for this whole thing was to help you understand that we're here and we're trying to do something. You know, we're trying to give positive feedback and try to help the kids out. That's my whole goal. You know, I do a lot of stuff for free because I want to. Because I want to show that, you know, just because I play professional basketball doesn't mean that I can't, you know, come back to my city where I'm from and do something. I might not get the support. It might not be a lot of people that be here. But that don't matter to me. Like Pig said, you know, it's like if I inspire that one person, then I'm making a difference. And, you know, one thing the biggest thing I want to say is that, you know, this whole thing, Food for Thought, was for the kids. And, you know, but as an adult for myself and the other adults, and as teenagers, and as anybody, if you're older than the kid, we have to understand that they look up to us. They follow us. So if we don't lead by bad example, they're going to follow us. So we go out there and we go smoke and we go drink and we go do this. They see that, they're like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to do it. And they're going to follow that lead. But if we decide to be like, okay, I'm going to be positive, you know, I'm going to do my work, you know, I'm going to try to help out, you know, I'm going to reach out, I'm going to do this. And they see that, they're going to understand that. So at the end of the day, we can say, you know, our kids are our future, but it's on us. We're going to have to lead. We're going to have to be the leader. We're going to have to lead them to us by example and let them follow us, because at the end of the day, that's who they're looking up to. So you have to understand that every day that you walk out on this earth, somebody's looking at you. So understand that. Just because you might think that you're being sneaky or what you're doing, you have to understand somebody's looking at you. You have to understand that. You're good, crazy. Yeah, but man, thanks you for coming, man. And I'm glad that we had this opportunity. I'm so happy. So, you know, man, thank you.